Hello, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. This is a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I'm a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist, largely in private practice, and I have worked with ADHD since it started. uh, for those of you who don't know, ADHD was not even on the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual until 1980. And well, actually, ADD was in 1980. 1987, they added the H, so we had ADHD. And now we're all used to it, but back then it was a huge disruption. Okay, the deal is, though, without a proper name and a proper set of characteristic symptoms, if you will, there was not a lot of research being done on it. And we had what was called hyperkinetic reaction of childhood, which is wrong for a whole slew of reasons. It's first of all, hyperkinesis or hyperkinetic behavior is not the only symptom of ADHD. Matter of fact, it's probably not even the most difficult one. And it also implied that it was only for childhood and it would disappear or something magically. And we know that that is not what happens. ADHD is a lifelong sort of thing. A lot of the worst of the, if you're hyperactive as a child, a lot of the worst of that goes away. Okay, but now we are on session 4 of the series of things I was doing because somebody asked about the about executive functioning, and we keep talking about executive functioning, and we're not very specific typically, and we keep talking about compensatory strategies and so on. And a gentleman asked, okay, what are said compensatory strategies? So we're going to try to, do that a little bit. Okay, for ADHDers, organization and planning frequently is an issue. Okay, it's frustrating and irritating and one of those boring sorts of things that ADHDers typically do not enjoy. Okay, but it's got to be done. Okay, because not all tasks are things that you can just do instantly. In school, it usually happens when there are projects, and projects then become papers, and papers become theses, and so on. It goes and goes and goes. But one of the problems is that the tendency is to look at the whole thing as one overwhelming project and problem that you're not going to be able to solve it, and it's going to take hours and hours, and it'll be so much trouble, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's one of those things you need to get, and you need to start it. Well, first time your kiddo gets overwhelmed by a project in school, but when you're an adult and you're still having that problem, you need to learn how to distance yourself from the whole deal and then start to do the analysis that you need to do to complete any project. Okay, the first thing you got to do is what actually has to be done. What are the pieces of this thing? You got to analyze it and find out, okay, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What is the value to the organization, or what is the value to me? If I want to start a new podcast, I've got to do certain things, and if I do those things, then I've got a new podcast and a new way to help people, and those are the things that motivate me. If you're working for somebody else, it's a little, you got to figure out something that works to get you motivated. If I do this, I'll be the company expert on this particular area. Thank you. Person who first pointed out to me that I did not have audio for the first 20 minutes that I broadcast. So thanks again. Anyway, as I was saying, So you have to analyze it. And the first thing you do is figure out what are the different steps, what needs to be done. And then you need to break it down. Okay, you got these. Okay, I'm going to do this whole big project. It's made up of these different tasks, reading, research, da 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 da. And you need to set down the steps in order. You can call it a checklist if you want to. I like checklists. I think they're very helpful for a lot of reasons. But you break it down into pieces and organize the steps. You write them all down and then you organize them. What has to happen first, and then second, and then third, and so on. And then you establish deadlines. When do I have to have this project done is the first big deadline, and then you need to break it down. Well, if I'm going to have it done by such and such a time, I have to get the research out of the way in the first week, and I have to get depending on the step or the project, you're going to have to break it down and until you get a completed project at the deadline date. Okay, hopefully a little earlier so you can troubleshoot it a little bit, and then you would have total freedom to adapt the checklist as you go along and see, oh, I didn't know there was this there, so I'm going to have to add that, so that's going to slow that down. Okay, and so that's important to adapt and adjust and feel free to do that. And some of the other things about, especially for ADHDers, is being organized in general. Okay, one of the things that's important to do is recognize that color is more important to ADHDers than it is probably to the general population, and it attracts your attention more than the words on the label will. So, like when you're a kid, have different color folders for different subjects in school, say. Math is red and English is green and so science is blue, or, whatever. There's no magic to it. You just have to figure out one so you can grab it real fast without having to read the label and that kind of thing. So that's one of the things. The other thing is I love checklists. I think I've said that before, but they save you a lot of trouble if you're talking about repetitive tasks. And, if you look at I'm not going to get into levels of abstraction, but if you look at almost any task, you can, there's a point at which you got a checklist. You need a checklist. I mean, you can call it a list, you can call it a spreadsheet, doesn't matter to me, but it's a checklist. Okay? Checklist is what the military uses. That's how you get guys who just barely made it through high school, who are jet engine mechanics or diesel mechanics or all kinds of maintenance tasks, and keep airplanes flying and tanks running and all that sort of thing. They use checklists. Okay? If you run a business, you can call them checklists, you can call them operating instructions, but you have to have it written down, or your business is going to have problems. Because your new people, if they don't have a book of operating instructions to look to, you're going to have to hands-on train them, which is going to take a lot of time and is not very efficient. You're going to be wasting a lot of time. If you're, an entrepreneur out there, you need to have your office procedures down to so there is a pattern. And that's, the major deal with planning and organization. Ideally, you have a task you've been given. You analyze it. You look at the things that need to be done to complete the task. You prioritize them, put them in order. You set a rough deadline, 1 week, 2 weeks, so on. And then you have a final deadline for when you have to have it in, but you probably want to give it a day or two for you to go over it one last time and make sure you've got all the problems ironed out and that sort of thing. And that's That's the most probably easiest way. The idea that, okay, this I don't want to do this. Dang it, but you break it down, and you break it down into little pieces that you can do without worrying about it. You have things color coded so they're in the right place and the right time, and you know now in this day and age, we have other things that you can, we have computer programs that'll do stuff for you, that will organize tasks, projects, that sort of thing. But they're all using basically this procedure, and they they do they take they take the thinking out of it. But either way, you need to know what your software program is doing, so you can help it along. And planning and organization, and then sometimes the biggest problem is that you're not. You don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. Damn thing. That changes as you get older, presumably, but there's still that. And you've got to figure out a way to convince yourself that this is a really important thing for you to do. You've got to, because if you go into it with a bad attitude, it'll tear you up, and you've got to see what good. Why would I want to know this? What would be good about this? How will this help me? How will this help my career? However you need to look at it. When you're in school, it's, I do it because they say I have to do it if I want to pass this course, and if I want to graduate, and if I graduate, everything's cool. If I don't graduate, we got a problem. Anyway, so that's a terribly important kind of thing, and you need to be able to talk yourself into it. Figure out a way to make it seem like it's important to you. Like I frequently use as an example is, high school kids. At that stage of life, everything, and they're talking about, why do I have to take geometry? I'll never use that. And you have to think of a reason that you want to do that. A lot of times what I tell them is, hey, watch this old house. Watch Tom Silva, the carpenter, on that show. Watch the way he figures out the angle he wants to cut wood for the rafters in a house or an addition or something. Man uses a ton of geometry, a little bit of algebra, some trig. I mean, he's using it all, and he's a master carpenter. So if he thinks it's important, maybe it is for you in some way. But you've got to figure out a reason that it's important for you to do it. Something that resonates with your particular what you think is important in life. Well, you can't just I'll do this because he's gonna be really angry if I don't get it done. That's not really very motivating. Okay, you need to figure out a reason why it's important to you. Well, if I do this darn thing, I'll be the company expert in this area. Maybe that's enough of a motivation. Maybe I'll get promoted. Maybe, I'll get a raise. That's what you've got to figure out what works for you. And the good thing is, a lot of this stuff, it becomes a habit. Habits are great because habits are routines that you do that you don't even have to think about. Okay, I mean, the simplest one is, what do you do when you get up in the morning? Uh, you know, brush your teeth, take a shower, get dressed, so on. But it's not something you think about very much. Of course, when you were little and just learning that, of course, it was something you needed to think about. And maybe your parents had one of those cool little easy daisies thing on the wall, so you could say what your morning routine was, and you move the little magnetic thing, and so you could say, oh, I already brushed my teeth. Oh, okay, now I need to get my socks on, and so on. But the same thing with a lot of things in business or a lot of things at work. You know pretty much what the day's going to bring most of the time, unless you're in one of those adventurous things like being a cop or a fireman or something like that. But even for them, a lot of the things are routine. This is what you're supposed to do. And I know they are in routine because the way you handle an emergency situation is based on a checklist, is based on a routine. The way you handle getting prepared to do a speech can be a routine. Oh, I always do this, 2 days before, and then the day before I do that, and then the morning of, I'm just ready to go and make sure I review my notes one last time, and make sure my throat is feeling fine, and then we're ready to go for the speech. Everything, lots of things can be made into routines, into habits that you don't even have to think about. And that's the good thing. Because if you spend too much time thinking about almost anything, it gets more complicated and more complicated and harder to do and all that sort of thing. So ADHDers, whether they're kids in school or whether they're adults on the job, or entrepreneurs on their own, trying to get rich and famous, it's important to have your basic planning and organization strategies down. They're all strategies. None of this is natural, and matter of fact, not many things people do are natural. I mean, so most of it is learned. Most of it is things we were taught or we had to figure out for ourselves. But those are the things that have become so routine. We think we invented them, and that's all right. It's not a problem. But you've got to be aware that you have some natural problems that other people don't have in staying organized. Okay, and we know the problem isn't that you can't pay attention. The problem is that you pay attention to too many things. And, the world is very full of all kinds of bright, shiny objects. And it's easy to wander way off from what you intended to do. But if you got the checklist there, or you got the organization tool, whatever you're using, your computer or your iPad or your phone or whatever, fine. I mean, but that keeps you on task. I forgot one major league point. Put in some breaks. Okay? You don't want to be sitting down at your desk or, and plan on doing 8 straight hours of work on this project. That usually means you didn't do it when you were supposed to do it, and you're trying to save the situation at the last minute. That's not very comfortable. But you need breaks. You need regular breaks along the way. Okay, and you see recommendations for all sorts of different lengths of, the shortest I've heard about is 5 minutes, and some people say 10, and some people even say 15 minutes. But you want to have a routine that you follow when you do that, other than, going to the bathroom and getting a drink of water and that kind of stuff. What do you do with that time? Some people do different kinds of exercises. Some people meditate, do breathing focus. But You want to program in breaks, the little bitty rewards. Some methods say, for, for every hour, you should work 45 minutes and have a 15-minute break. Whatever. You probably have your own ideas about how much time you need, but you need to set it up so it's regular, so you know there's a reward coming, and you're not going to have to work all day long or without a break. Okay, and the same thing with meals. You need time to eat properly, and you need to get enough rest, because if you're not sleeping, you're not doing very good work. You probably don't even know it, but you're just not doing very good work. So you need to take care of yourself. Get enough exercise, enough flexibility training, enough strength training, and some meditation or slow down time, eating a good diet, um, not a lot of candy, donuts, cake, muffins, cupcakes, all that stuff, and you need to get a goodly amount of sleep. As I know, some people have a tendency, they want to do all-nighters, and I've done a few of those, and it doesn't work out very well. Much better to plan ahead and really make an effort in that area. Okay, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras. This has been Dr. G's ADHD Chat, show designed to make the world safe for ADHDers. My website is terrygingrasphd.com. You can, if you're looking for coaching, you can sign up for a discovery session. No charge. That's a freebie, and we can figure out if we can work together. And periodically there are other things to sign up for, courses and memberships and that sort of stuff. So I will catch you next week, and we're still on the executive functioning thing. I'm not going to do too many more sessions, because it's it's an area that's not sharply defined. But okay, we will catch you later. Be good.